Alrighty. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you have you should have like a hand raising option and also thumbs up and laughy face and all the other fun stuff available to you. So if you do have a question while we are talking or while we're discussing this, today's topic and any other questions, very good, then you are welcome to raise your hand. You may also ask questions in the chat, which I also have open now. Okay, thank you. That's very good. Lots of fun faces. Everyone's discovering. That's good. So I hope everyone enjoyed the narwhal while you were waiting. I know we're starting a little bit later. I was trying to give people, some people had mentioned they had classes that ran a little bit toward like 5:40, 5:45-ish. So I want to give them a little bit more time to get home so maybe they can hop on and not miss as much, but it is being recorded. So be aware that if you do say something, that your voice will be on the recording, but the recording will be uploaded to YouTube, but under an unlisted video, but I will provide the link to the video. Okay, so the plan for today, if I look at the, let's see, let me get you the syllabus 1 second. Okay. So Mr. Syllabus says that we are covering the floating action button, Snackbar, tab layout, RecyclerView, CardView. So these are just some of the other options. We're primarily going to look at some of the floating action bar stuff for now. Let me open up something, sorry, in my other window. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, there's my notes. I don't forget it. Okay. So yeah, so we've got a couple things to go over this week. So the floating action bar, snack bar, and then we'll do some stuff involving the RecyclerView and CardView. I don't think I created a explicit example about the tab layout, but it's not particularly crazy to work with. And then next week we'll do intense and broadcast receivers. We will probably meet in person next week unless I get incredible, overwhelming recommendations for us doing something online. We'll have to see, but I have discovered there were a lot of people that missed last week. I think some of it had to do with tests and stuff that are coming due around this time, and also because of Ramadan, a lot of people are staying home and helping to prepare food and getting ready for breaking their fast. And I even I felt bad because I did see some people like eating while it started to get really late. So I'm like keeping everyone like kind of late. So this time I wanted to make sure everyone maybe had the opportunity to be at home if they wanted to be, or get home quick, and stuff like that. So hopefully all of this will be good today, and also it's recorded. So if someone is watching this, they couldn't make it. We've got probably about 9 people, including myself, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, currently, but we'll probably notice a few more will join as we go along. Okay, so I already assigned project 4 last week. I think we discussed it, but just to be clear and to see if anyone has any questions. This one is a little bit more open-ended, right? So you have to use Kotlin or Java. Strongly recommend Kotlin, but it's fine. If you're using Java, you won't have points taken off. There are, you want to have an appropriate layout. Now, by this, pretty much everyone's going to choose constraint layout, but for whatever you're actually doing with your application, I want to make sure that you have laid things out on the screen properly. 3 different types of widgets at a minimum that should not be very hard to do, and at least 2 fragments. Okay, that they could be fragments that are swapped out. They could be fragments that are part of the screen simultaneously, and then you just swap data out and things like that. And then use of Jetpack features such as things like view model, live data. You don't have to use view model, you don't have to use live data, but as long as you use, in other words, you don't have to use both of these and then other Jetpack features. You could just use anything that's part of the Jetpack features that we discussed, and view model and live data are good examples of that. You must also have at least one of the following. You have to have either the data sources such as SQLite or interaction with a web service, or you can have navigation. Okay, now if you do that, you're actually also covering Jetpack, because navigation is a Jetpack feature, so that would be fine. A document, this one is maybe a little bit different than what you had before. So a document containing a description of your program's use and screenshots showing the activities and features of your program. So fragments and activities, I guess it should say. So you have to have at least one screenshot of each activity fragment. Now, obviously, if it's something where you're loading data and replacing the content in a fragment, you don't have to show every possible combination, right? So there's no reason you should have to show every, if it were the cat API, which you used for project 3, but just as an example, if you were using the cat API and we put all this stuff on the screen and they pick a different cat, you're not having to take a screenshot of every single cat the data provider provides, because one of you might pick some sort of web service with a seemingly infinite number of possibilities. So, all right. And yeah, grade is based on creativity, technical correctness, good programming style, etc. Deliverables, again, you need to zip up the entire project containing Gradle files, all subfolders, etc., and upload it to the appropriate assignment folder on Canvas. You also should have your doc with the description of the project and screenshots built into that document. There must be at least one screenshot per activity or fragment. You must include the document inside the top level of your Android Studio project. Also, what that means is it does not mean you have to zip like 2 or 3 layers of things. You just have to zip the very, very top project level, and you're just putting that PDF, doc, or docx in that top level. Okay, so you don't have to do like an additional folder or something. You may work in a group of up to 3 people. Each person must contribute, and then one person should upload the final project and include all the names of the group members in the description screenshot document. So in that document at the very beginning, don't like strew them throughout where it's hard to find. I have had students do that, which is peculiar, but you should have all names very, very clear on kind of like a cover page. Okay. It doesn't have to be a formal U of M Dearborn letterhead. I know some people require that for some of their courses. They do that a lot in ECE. But you don't have to use formal letterhead or anything. You can just make some sort of cover sheet or front matter for your document and just make sure that everyone who participated has their names in the front. Okay. You have to make sure that you've decided on your team members clearly before you turn in the assignment. That's another requirement. I have had incidences in the past where people have turned in the assignment, and then they'll have like 2 people in a group or whatever, and then a third person will realize they didn't do the assignment or something, and then they'll call their friends, oh, you got to help me, but they've already turned in the project. So they're like, they emailed me and everyone's like, hey, can you add so-and-so to the, it's like they didn't do anything. I have no reason to believe that they did anything. So make sure you do that ahead of time, get everyone's name on it before it gets turned in, and that it's clear that everyone contributed. All right, are there any questions again about this project programming assignment 4? Any questions, pertinent information? This one is not showing a test plan, so you don't have to do that. I would recommend doing it just because it helps you kind of organize your time and figure out what things aren't implemented yet. So don't look at it as an assignment, look at it as part of the project, as just something you should do when you're working on software, is have some sort of checklist of features as to whether such and such is implemented or not. So, but you don't have to turn it on. All right, any questions on that? Okay. All right. So yeah, this week is these topics. Then we'll do the intensive broadcast receivers next week. Then the final 2 weeks we don't have class, so the final examination will open up during the week of the 13th, and then the final project will be due the week of the 20th. I believe that date's wrong. Sorry, that I'm not sure if it's just the day or if it's the or just the year, or if the day's wrong too. So let's look here real quick, just to make sure. 23rd. Okay, so that's kind of important. So make sure you're paying attention to that. So that's due on April 23rd. The final exam, that's the final exam, sorry. The project 4 is due April 25th. Okay, so that is actually, I think that is actually right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, 13th through the 23rd, you'll have up to 10 days on this one to start it and finish it. It's again going to have a where is it, midterm, or not a midterm, but a study guide. So where is it? That's a student guide, action, snack bar, intent. It's not listed here. Where is the study guide? Oh, I didn't list it. Okay, well, it's in the study guides, but we're gonna I have to, I guess, expose it over here. Yeah, I think we'll put it in here. Glad I looked at it. See, I would have had a lot of very sad students. Where's the study guide? Okay, so yeah, this one opens up on March 31st. So that's well in time for the final, but that's the study guide. All right. We have to close the narwhal. I'm sorry. Goodbye, narwhal. Okay. Any questions on anything prior to us starting on today's topics? And I will also answer questions related to I think project, let me see here. Project 3 is due April 9th. That's the one that involves volley. I hope that everyone was able to take a look. If you were having trouble, I hope that you were able to take a look at the materials that were available under that. I put it under the module, I think, and a mention of it in the announcement. So that's view model. Yeah, this stuff. So I made a student guide PDF for volley in Kotlin, because I know the Java one was just kind of quick back of the napkin type. Here's how you can do it. And I think I maybe underestimated the amount of trouble people would have converting it into Kotlin. The official documentation for volley actually has some pretty good material on it, right? So where is it? Well, that's bizarre. I thought it was, maybe it is the top one. Yeah, it is. Okay, sorry. So yeah, this is volley, but you can actually look under this tells you what you need in order to use volley to add it to the project. And then this is send a simple request. So this actually could give you a pretty good idea on how you would do it in both Kotlin and Java, and then what that entails. Now, half of this stuff you don't even need here, and then really you don't even need to go to these other options. You just need to look at the how do I use the request queue and get what happens when I get the response, etc. So Oh, and this is another big one. If you're having any trouble where there are permissions issues, then you definitely need to make sure that you have the Android permission internet added to the manifest, which means that you in a particular, well, I don't have it open yet, but you go into a particular project and then you go under manifests and then go to Android manifest and then put the, if you actually start typing user-permission, it'll actually pop up and then give you options. So that will pretty much self-guide you through the process of doing this. But this also has a link here. So in case you're not sure how to do that, this is basically what this is doing is it's adding the permission to the project. If you were uploading it to the App Store, when someone downloaded it and they went to install it, it would say something to the effect of this app wants to, you know, be able to view your pictures, you know, access your bank account and bribe you with photos and stuff like that. So you have to give it permission for each of those things. Internet access is a very common one because you can't really download anything without internet access. So unless you grant it explicitly to the application, it won't be able to connect. This right here, I know the syntax is a little bit peculiar for some people, but really, remember Kotlin tries to condense things pretty heavily. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit here. Kotlin does condense things really, really heavily. So in this one, you're creating a string request, which is a data type that you get with Kotlin, and it also has, you tell it a method by which it's getting it. So get, post, delete, let's update. I forget what update is. Oh, put, and then there's some others. You get that. You have the actual URL you're trying to access data from. This one is not what you're using. Obviously, you'll use like Cat API or whatever API you're going to use for your project for. You would use that. And then the Java one might be a little bit more clear to actually see what's going on. So you're still creating this object called the string request, which you eventually add to the request queue. There's only going to be one request. So you add that to the queue and then the system will actually process it because the queue is just kind of sitting there waiting. If it got like, you know, dozens and dozens of things or was doing stuff real time, then it would be kind of an issue as far as like having to keep a queue of the requests. But since you're only doing one, you shouldn't notice really any delay. So in Java, we can see that we are creating an instance of string request using the request, the URL, and then another object. This is a listener. Okay, so this is a listener on that should expect to receive a string. And then, so that basically is creating an anonymous class here. It goes from there to there, right? There to there. And then the response listener inside of it has one method. I'm sorry, it's from there to there. Sorry. This is a regular listener and it has an on response method associated with it. And then the second, or the not second, but I guess it's the fourth parameter. The fourth parameter is a response error listener. So this is implementing the on error response. So what do I do if there's an error? Now, Kotlin, it's exactly doing the same things. It's just it's very, very kind of reduced the amount of stuff that you need. So request.method.get URL. So those are the same. This one right here, you'll notice instead of having to go through and say new response.listener, blah, 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 and then putting a method in here, if it's an interface with only one method, you can just directly do this. You can just say the name of the class or interface you're implementing, and then you have this. This is the parameter. The curly braces just represent anything in here is representing the method. This is the parameter. This delimits, the arrow delimits the method or the parameter from the body of the method. And then you do stuff in here. And same thing for the error listener. In this case, they're not, the error listener, you'll notice they're not actually using the error parameter. So he's just ignoring it, whoever wrote the code. So it's just updating something saying this didn't work. If you needed to get the response, then you would again put something like response and then arrow or error response and then arrow. But I hope that the volley example that I uploaded, the student guide, was useful. It's a few pages, but not particularly challenging. I would say if you're having kind of a really hard time with what's going on, that you actually take the time to go through and actually create this completely separate project. Don't just try to, get it built into whatever you currently have. I would do this separately just to get a lay of the land and understand what's going on. So it will show you straight up exactly what you need to do, what kind of template I used. I was a little bit more short on some of this, like create a new project. You should know how to do that by now. So I'm not giving you like every little tiny thing you have to do. Adding this right down here so that it imports volley, syncing it, enabling the view binding right here, syncing again, opening activity, adding button, and then I tell you what to do here. I think it kind of, I think you're supposed to delete the text view or something also, but it's kind of implied because this thing literally just has a button. That's all it does. It has a button. You press the button and it doesn't even print the data on the layout. It prints it in the console. So this is just to show you how to get the data. You have to decide how you're going to work with it past that. But right here, I have the binding. I create the binding, set the content view, and then have this get cat data button and an on-click listener. And I call a separate method just to keep things kind of nice and organized. And I had this right here. This was empty to start with. I told you how to get your free cat API in case anyone was unclear about that. And then what the JSON looks like when you get it back. Okay, it shows you all the different parts. For this particular example, we were just interested in getting the name and the description. Okay, so you need maybe a little bit more on your actual project, and you're also putting it in a spinner and doing other things with it. So this does not fully cover what you're supposed to do, but it should, since it's using the exact same API, it should be giving you an idea of how it works. So remember, as a note, this is using something similar to JavaScript notation. So if you actually know JavaScript, this is useful, but if you don't, it's some of this should still look familiar, like using brackets here. That goes all the way to the end. There's one set of brackets, so that tells you that's in an array. But with JavaScript, it's what we call a prototypical language. You can create objects on the fly. So this is based on that as well. So this right here is an open curly brace. That's a closed curly brace and a comma. That's saying that was the first object and the second object is there. Will the guide be on Canvas after lecture? The guide has been on Canvas since I posted it the other day and made an announcement. So it, let me see here. Yeah, volley plus Kotlin help. I said I put it under the week 12 module. If you go over to module and you go to week 12, there's the student guide right there, and there's my project right there. So it's already there. It's been there since like a couple days ago, I think. All right, so the JSON format with the square brackets right here, dealing with an array of data within any individual set of curly braces. And this is going to be very similar for anything you choose. If you choose another web service for your project 4, it's extremely likely that it will return the data in JSON. It could do XML, but that's becoming less and less common. So JSON's the most popular. So within any individual objects, you'll know they have created these objects, or notice they've created these objects with a name and a description. Okay, so the first one in the whole list, if you do /breeds here, so if I just go to that, you'll see that this is kind of a disorganized cluster, but I think I should be able to, yeah, I think if I view source, it'll actually, oh no, it didn't. Line wrap, wait a minute. Oh, no, that didn't work either. Okay, sometimes it shows it in a little bit more of an organized fashion, but this is showing you different, I think there's a plugin for Chrome. I think I have it on my main account that does like I think it's called pretty format or something, or nice format. It'll organize these and actually make it look a lot nicer. But this is literally what you get back if you go to this. And if you're doing it from an app, I believe you have to put on the API key. I might be wrong on that, but I've always used the API key with it. It might be just certain requests need the API key, but I would get in the habit of getting the API key anyway. But you notice this is giving you all the cats that they have available. It looks like just a cluster of information, but it actually is quite organized. It's structured pretty heavily. So, all right. So let me see here. What else? Okay, JSON looks something like that. The name, authentication. This is telling you what you can do with the API key. You're literally taking whatever the link is. So in our case, it would be something like cat API v1/ breeds, and then a question mark API key equals whatever your API key is. And you also have to have the internet permission, which I added to the manifest right here and showed you how to do that. Inside main activity, I said we're going to fill up print cat data. That's the thing that is earlier, remember, when I created this on click listener for the button, I call print cat data here, and it was empty to start with, but now we're actually filling it in, and it's going to do the majority of the work. Okay. So down here, this is where we actually do the volley stuff, and this is showing you, you know, what you can do with the URL. Make sure to use your own key. Create the queue. You create this type of request with a response for the regular response and also for the error, just like they have on the website. And then you add it to the queue. And then as soon as you run the app, it will take care of this when you click the button. When you click the button, it will call in turn this method. That will create this object, add it to the queue, and then it will immediately process it because there's nothing else waiting in the queue. And then it will, since we're here, we're just using log to print stuff to the console at the bottom under logcat typically. We're not doing anything on the app's layout itself. It just prints out the whole thing, just like I just got through the browser. But this is the first step, just to make sure you're getting all of the data. But we probably want to organize it, right? So we will fix it up. So the response will look like this. I now am taking just that string that I just printed out, which was just everything, and I'm asking the JSON array, or I'm asking this class called JSON array. It will actually take the response, and since we know that that whole response is an array in JSON format, this will now represent it as an object. It will parse it properly. So it's called cat array. It's not a regular array, it's a JSON array object. So it doesn't, you can't iterate over it in the same exact way that you do. Like you can't use any of that like handy dandy, like enhanced for loop syntax. So you have to actually do something like this where you're using a range. So for I in 0 until the cat's array length, that'll go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to the number of cats minus 1. It will not include the number of cats, which is good because that would crash. Then once we've done that, or every time we go through here, what do? You grab an individual cat. That's that outer object. So we create the object and then get cats array.get JSON object at I. That is going to give us that single object that we want for one cat. And then once we do that, I'm just using string interpolation. You could use the plus symbol for concatenation. It doesn't matter. Concatenation. That's funny. Anyway, so this one is cat name. And then we used the string interpolation here. You just call get string, and then you ask for that property. So this one asks for name. This one asks for description on that individual cat object we got from the array. So if we look back at the data, the array again has different objects. So cat1, cat2, et cetera, but once you get that single object, JSON object, you then ask it for its properties. You say get string for name, you give it the key name and it gives you the value. And then the same thing here, you ask it for description, you give it that key name and it gives you the value, which is this. All right. So that's why you don't have to parse it on your own or try to, come up with how the heck am I going to do this? The JSON object takes, and the JSON array and the JSON object take care of it for you automatically. Okay. And then I give you, just so everyone has it, I give everyone the entire source code here. And I also uploaded the project so everyone can see it in context. All right. Any questions about this? Any questions about this? Yeah, so that's available under the week 12 material. The spinner will basically display the name attribute. The spinner will, yes, my recommendation for what you do is, just like any good coding activity, you're going to have to break this down into different parts. Okay, so one of the major parts is, now let's say, I don't even remember what all the, I guess I can look at it. What exactly am I having you look at or do? I mean, is that project 3? Cat fax API. I'm having you do. What did I tell you which ones to get, or just the description? So let me see here. Oh, I see. So you'll use the data returned.json from the cat API to list the breeds of cats. With a simple dropdown. Once the breed is selected, the API may be contacted again to obtain the image of the cat if one exists. You should keep the spinner in a fragment near the top. The spinner is what's displaying the cat name. And then in addition, okay, there it is. That's what it was. That's what I was looking for right there. So in addition to the image of the cat, you should show information such as the name, which you already should know how to get, the temperament and origin. Okay, you could add more, but just do those 3 in addition to the image and you should be fine. The image view itself and all that other stuff should be kept inside of a scroll view. So each kind of screen is doing a scroll view. Now, once you get that data, what I would recommend, once you get it from the web service, I would recommend storing all of that data in a custom object or having the view model take care of it. I would personally create a custom object, like you could call it cat. That's a good name for it. And then the cat object, plain old Java class or plain old Kotlin class, Pojo, Poco, whatever you want to call it, plain old Java object, plain old Kotlin object. You just create a class representing the cat, and then that class will contain things like the image URL, the name, the temperament, and the origin. So basically 4 strings and maybe properties to get those strings. Okay, or methods if you want to go a little older school, but Kotlin way is generally we like using properties, but it doesn't matter. Once you have all that information, every time you go through the JSON line by line, just like over here, I just printed it out to the console. What you might want to do instead of just printing it out to the console here is you grab the JSON object. I would probably use a different name, like the cat JSON object or cat JSON object or something like that. And then I have a separate variable called the cat or cat. And I would say var cat equals var cat of type cat equals, and then you come up with a way to parse this information. So I would pass it to the constructor instead of printing this stuff out to the console. So I would pass like the name, the description, the URL, and everything. And then once you have that single cat, you can add it to something like an array list, and then you can keep track of all those cats. So literally, once you have grabbed all that information, you can store it all in the array list, and then you don't have to keep contacting the API, the web service, every time you want to get more information about a different cat, you don't have to do that. In fact, that's very inefficient. You probably don't want it to contact the API every time you change the cat name. That's just not a good move. Okay. So, sorry, I'm being attacked by a kitten. Give me a moment. There we go. I'm going to put her over by her dad so she messes with him instead of me. Not my fault. I had nothing to do with this. All right, so that's what you do. You put them in different separate objects that we can use more easily in Kotlin or Java if you're using Java, and then put each of those object references in an array list or some other data structure that you can use that from. And once you have that, you basically just can loop through that and make store the data in the spinner. And the cool thing is if you have an array list filled with cat objects, and a spinner that also has kind of an underlying data structure and the ability to look at the indices of what's selected, then it will be like probably go back to your 150, 200 days. Does everyone remember what a parallel array is, or what a parallel array-like structure is? Anyone remember that? Meow? No. Parallel array is basically when you have more than one array representing the same entity. But if you go to for example, if I wanted to keep names in one array and then URL, or not URLs, but like weights in a second array, I could keep them both in two separate arrays, but they would have the same index referring to the same entity. You can do that with this because the spinner has its own underlying basically array of strings. And then you can keep an array list or something of the cat objects. And then anytime they select, let's say they go to index 5, you just go find cat at 5 in the array list, and you can ask it for, hey, what's your name, what's your description, what's your URL for the image, right? And temperament or whatever else I asked for. Good. Any questions, either in chat or if you want to raise your hand, if you want to ask it aloud? Anything not clear? Yeah, I figured this was probably going to be, hopefully it's useful and hopefully a lot of people use it. I was getting some emails and people were kind of confused about what to do or having trouble kind of converting what I had to the Kotlin. So I decided I'd add that. And I think I'm getting good feedback from it. So I think some of you are just sleeping right now, but that's okay. Yeah, any questions? Any other questions? Nope. Okay, so we've got the volley guide. You've got your project information up there for both 3 and 4 now. 4 was released last week, and we will discuss today's material. All right. Okay. So floating action button and snack bar. This is a relatively short set of material, so it's not particularly long, but we should get some ideas about what's going on with these things because you will encounter them. It's very likely you'll encounter them in different apps. So specific set of design recommendations to make interesting and visually stunning UIs is what material design is. So material design was invented by Google. It affects behavior, shadowing, animation, style, etc. So one of the tenets of material design is that the elements of a UI appear to have physical depth. So it looks like it's coming out at you. So that is one thing that you'll see a lot when someone makes buttons or other things to adhere to material design concepts. Sometimes they will look like they have some shadowing or shading and things like that. So they have a sense of being constructed in layers of physical material. For example, yeah, the button raised onto the surface of the layout in which it resides. And we can use shadow effects or usually it's an effect, but you could, like on a website, if you wanted it to follow material design, you could use CSS to do it, or you could In some cases, you might want to make an image that automatically has shadowing in it. That's possible, but usually you'd use CSS or some other technique. Another example is the way in which the app bar located at the top of the screen should appear, and the way it behaves in relation to scrolling activities taking place within the main content of the activity. So full description of material design, they have an entire website devoted to this. It's actually really well done. And it actually is kind of set up like Discord, which is kind of funny, but I like the navigation and everything on this. But you should be able to read up on this if you're interested more in the design side, or just interested in the design side, I should say. You can look at this, you can see what the different style recommendations are, and how to learn about the more the art kind of side of stuff, art and design side of things. So this actually has kind of these nice little tutorials. And if I go under color, for example, it'll go through all this stuff and explain what, sorry, my, the kitten just assaulted me. I apologize if you heard a very loud boom. I'm being swatted at right now. So I told you when I'm at home, I'm covered in cats. This is not really, it's not an exaggeration. So design, implementation, and tools, and this shows you the different resources that are available for those things. There's other ways to create. There's actually some tools that Adobe has available that actually helps you generate some design aspects. So, but this explains things about like what colors do, what they mean, like what they're involved in, how they impact people's experience on a different game, or a game, I mean app, not game. I have games all over the brain. But they'll talk about like what different color combinations do, neutral, additional, what people generally consider errors. Like if you see a bunch of red on something, a lot of people will consider it, might think it's an error. So you have to be judicious with how you use color. And then they'll also go through other aspects as well. Yeah. And also schemes too. You can use a bunch of different websites to come up with different color schemes. One of them is, oh God, what is it called? Color palette. It's a, nope, not psychology. Palette, color palette. What's the one I was thinking of? Canva. That's the one I'm thinking of. So Canva's good. I use it a lot when I deal with websites, because I'm not as far into the design level stuff as I am the implementation level stuff. So I like to have this to assist me. So you can sometimes look at what they have available here and see different color palettes or color combinations. So you can look in here. They have a color wheel as well. I'm trying to see if I can find it from here. They may not have it linked from the top anymore. What's this? Let's do, okay. I think it's just called color wheel, but color wheel, Canva. Okay, there we go. Yeah, okay, so if you have a particular color, like let's see, I have this particular shade of red on my website, and I want to know, or my app or website, doesn't really matter, and I want to know different schemes I could use with it and what other colors are available. This actually really helps you. So monochromatic uses other shades of red, essentially. Analogous are those that are kind of in the same, what we call temperature in color. So these are all warm colors. You've got red and orange and pink. And then you've also got complementary, which are usually opposite. So you've got a really cool color and a really warm color. Triadic, that means they try to make like a, you'll notice there's kind of like a peace sign here if you're paying really close attention. There's like the red, the blue, and the green. And then you've got tetradic, which is 4. So up to, so these are all at like 90 degrees. So this is a flat straight line, and then these are at 90 degrees from it with a straight line. and that's how it finds the tetradic and all the other stuff on the color wheel. So pretty cool. And there's even more tools. So you're getting tons and tons of other tools becoming available all the time. But yeah, that's material design. Look through it if you're interested. Design library. So many of the building blocks needed to implement Android applications that adopt material design are contained within the Android design support library. It contains a collection of UI components that can be included in Android apps to implement much of the look, feel, and behavior of the material design. Two of the components that we will look at are the floating action bar, or FAB, and the Snackbar. Okay, Snackbar. Okay, so the floating action button, I said bar, I think, but floating action button is a button that appears to float above the surface of the UI, right? It's got this kind of shading in the bottom of it, or to the kind of bottom right of it. So it's generally used to promote the most common action within a user interface screen. So a lot of times, like if you have a contacts app or something and you want to add context to it, you could click there, or you could click this little plus right there. So it's being very, it's making itself very, very obvious. So to conform to the material design guidelines, there are a number of rules that should be followed when using floating action buttons. So it has to be circular. If you're following the material, I mean, technically, as far as technology is concerned, you could make it any shape you want, but it has to be circle if you're going to adhere to the material design. You want it to look like a legitimate Android application. It's just kind of the way it is. So it has to be circular. It can be either a 56 by 56 density independent pixels, or a 40 by 40 density independent pixel if it's a mini. The button should be positioned at a minimum of 16 density independent pixels from the edge of the screen, so 1616, or it could also be 24 on desktop and tablet devices. Regardless of the size, the button must contain an interior icon that is 24 by 24 in size, and is recommended to each UI it's recommended that each UI have only one floating action button. They can be animated or designed to morph into other items when they're touched. For example, they could rotate when tapped and morph into another element. So this thing could like rotate and then expand or do something and then collapse, whatever you want to do with it. But this little icon, this plus symbol, is 24 by 24. And then the circle it lives in this case, is 56 by 56, for example. This is the Snackbar. The Snackbar component provides a way to present the user with information in the form of a panel that appears at the bottom of the screen, such as an image. Snackbar instances contain a brief text message, an optional action button, which will perform a task when tapped by the user. Once displayed, the Snackbar will either time out automatically or can be removed manually by the user's swiping action. Okay, so we're going to do the floating action bar example. Let me get that ready. Just a minute. Okay. All right, so we covered material design. We talked about some of the basics. What we're going to do is we're going to, we've got Android Studio launched here. I'm going to create a new project. In this case, I'm going to use, now pay close attention here, a basic activity instead of an empty activity. I'm going to create a basic activity. Now you'll notice material 3 actually has additional changes to it. So what I'm talking about is actually material 2. Material 3, you can actually make it rounded corner square. That is a preview version because this is kind of new. But basic activity, still very popular. I am going to call this something like Fab example. I may already have one in there. Not sure. Let's double check. No, I guess it let it happen. So we're good with that. Let this thing warm up for a second. There we are. Okay. All righty. So it's the basic activity template that actually comes with the floating action button. And we don't have to like add it manually or position it or anything like that. It's automatically part of the system. This one has a snack bar built in here as well. You'll also notice that it automatically generates the view binding for us. So this means that this is automatically set in the Gradle options. So we have the binding of type activity main binding, and then that is automatically inflated and set for us. So not much going on there. You will notice that we also have this, the binding FAB set on click listener. This right here is just like any button. The floating action button allows you to set the on click listener, and it does have a view parameter, the arrow, and then we can create a snack bar here to show up. And you can actually even set actions and do other things with that, which will, I think we take a look at in just a moment. Waiting until the Android system loads this, hopefully sooner than later. Right. It's taking its sweet time. Gradle, Gradle, Gradle. Oh, how you slay me. I guess as we wait, we can look at some of the code here. So this particular one, some of the default stuff that's built in here, this has the options menu that shows up, and that adds items to the action bar if it's present. So it inflates the sets of menu. You'll notice this is under r.menu, so that means it's going to be in a folder called like menus, and it inflates it into whatever the menu is that is on this particular application. And we also have what happens if not only showing the menu, but what happens if you click items on the menu. So there's different items. The default one only has one in it. But this one's going to return whether it's succeeded or not. And what do we do in addition to that? So this right here, this is shortcut for saying, if it's the action settings, just return true. It's not actually doing anything except saying, yeah, you clicked it. So that's all it's doing. And then there's support navigation. So this thing's being a little bit of a turd here, but it looks like it's, I think it's, I don't know why that's paused. That's bizarre. Oh, no, it looks like it is working. So that's good. So how's everyone this week? Doing well? Doing great? Everyone excited to be here? Yeah? Partying a lot? No? Gardening? Yes. Very good. That's good. Lots of parties, lots of eating, lots of naps. Definitely gardening. Gardening's better. Yeah, gardening's even better than partying. Right? Yeah, I don't know if you can garden anything right now. It's pretty cold. Gardening with my rocks. That's good. You know, I knew I could depend on you to you know, have fun with your rocks this week. It's always a good move. Okay, this is being kind of a jerk, isn't it? May have to close and reopen it because sometimes they misbehave, but I'm gonna let it go for a minute. See if it finishes up. Usually the first time it runs, again, it takes a little longer than subsequent times. So it's kind of irritating, but is what it is. So what we're going to do though, is we'll notice that it will have 4 different layouts. So it'll have an activity, and then it'll have the content, which is going to contain a nav host fragment. So this does actually have navigation built into as well, and it's going to be embedded in that activity main using what's called the include directive. So it's actually just directly and statically built into it. And then we're going to have two different fragments that we're going to use to, we're going to show what's in those as soon as this loads. Oh, I thought I saw some progress. You know what? I'm going to hit exit and we're going to try it again because that is ticking me off. Where is it? Oh, it's not on there. Okay, I'm going to pin this to the taskbar. There we go. It's our friend the eel. Okay. All righty. It's a fun time, folks. Always a fun time. If you guys need to take a short nap while you're waiting, that's fine too. Interesting. You know what I think? I think something's wrong with the ADB. Let me terminate it. And I'm going to go to Task Manager. So if it freezes like that, that could mean the ADB is, doesn't always do this, but it does happen. Let me see here, ADB. Huh. QE menu. No. I think we're good on that. What about this? I do not see it. It's not showing up in here. Android Studio. All right, I guess we just have to wait a little while on it. It says that error initializing it with open screen options. I don't really care about that. Gradle is hard at work. That looks like it is actually. Restart. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, Gradle is definitely doing things. So Gradle and the ADB system. Interesting. Oh, okay. That could be a problem. Okay, well, it's actually showing though. All right, so I think we're good now. Let us get the emulator. That took way longer than it should have. Okay, so imagine what it would have been like on my laptop. It probably would have worked in like a minute and a half. So we've got the let's see, build features. They already added view binding. It's automatically built in, so we don't have to add that. We do want to look at the two fragments a little bit here. So layout, I've got fragment first, fragment second. Fragment first looks like this. So basically, we've just got hello first fragment and then a next button. And then we've got the second fragment. All it has is a previous button on it. That's literally it. Activity main is, it has the floating action button added, okay, at the bottom, and it's got its margins as 16, because remember that was the kind of the minimum. You've got the app bar and the toolbar in it as well, and you'll notice this is kind of a little handy thing if you just have basically to include something statically, meaning it's not really going to be popped in and out. This layout here for this particular activity is just holding content main. So content main is this thing, which actually includes the actual fragment. Okay, so this one's a basically nav host. Okay. We also have menu down here. This was that thing we were inflating earlier. It's got the settings, fab example, and you'll notice it just kind of looks like this. It's got menu, and then it's got one item currently, and that's all it is. It just has an ID. You can treat it very much in many ways like a button. So when the options are accessed, you can do things like, oh, they clicked the thing with item ID, so we do this, this, and this, right? This is a when statement. Again, that's kind of like a switch statement. So you've got the thing that it is focusing on here, and then the different options, and then the else at the end is kind of like the default, right? Okay, let me see, what are we changing here? Okay, main activity.kt. We've got the set on click listener. It does this with view binding. We don't really need the navigation features for this particular example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, let me see, app res navigation here. I'm going to open up the nav graph in this case, and I'm going to select the second fragment. That's this thing right here. And I'm going to just hit the delete key. And then I'm going to delete the second fragment XML file because we don't need it. So fragment second, I'm going to hit delete on that and say okay to that. And then I'm going to open the first fragment Kotlin file. Give me a second here. I'm going to move the emulator. Don't really need that at the moment. All right, so I've got the second fragment Kotlin file over here. I'm sorry, the first fragment Kotlin file. I guess I probably need to delete, yeah, I need to delete the, sorry, the second fragment Kotlin file as well, because we're not using that. The only reason we used this template is so we could get the floating action bar really easy. That's basically why we're doing it. So I'm going to hit OK on that. First fragment, we do need to delete some references to this. So on view created, you'll notice it looks at the second fragment here, or it's referencing the second fragment. So I'm going to delete that whole statement. And then the error should go away on first fragment, which it does. Okay. So it basically is just calling super.onViewCreated. Let me see here. We could change the floating action button, let me look here real quick. I think we have an icon that was included. Let me double check. I'm off on my other screen real quick here. I believe it's from the Muroc book, or not Muroc, I'm sorry, the course book directly. Let me see here. Kotlin samples. Yeah, 1 second. Fun. Okay. 125 megabytes. I don't know that I need that. Did I include the image? I might have included the image already. Double check. Nope. Let me look. Uno momento, por favor. Okay. I might have a quicker way to get this. There he is. Source res drawable. There it is. Okay. I don't think I need to unzip the whole thing anymore. So I'm going to hit cancel. Don't need that. So much wasted work. Okay, I am going to upload this just so you guys have access to it directly. So I'm going to go under class examples, and I'm literally just going to go under resources, and then I'm actually dragging the this image here called add entry PNG, right? So that's the add entry. That's the one that I need to add into my project here. So I'm actually going to do that. I've got it off screen, but I'll bring it on here. So I'm just going to copy, Control C literally, and then I'm going to go under the drawable, and I'm going to do Control V, and then tell it OK. Hit OK. All right, so I've got my PNG file. This is that plus symbol right there. And we're going to open up the activity main XML. So we've got that. And the icon source, if I can find it, where is it? It's probably at the top. Where is it? Oh, I don't see it. Icon? Yeah. Oh, it doesn't have that. What am I looking at then? Did they move it? They probably moved it. Oh. Okay, so since this has content main, I'm suspecting it's probably in content main, then it's probably moved. No? Well, how the crap? Where's the icon set? Drawable. Let's source compat on the floating action button. Oh, you know what? I think maybe that's what I was intending on changing. Okay, I don't remember that being a problem when I looked at this before, but okay. So we're gonna make it Android. That's Android drawable. I'm just gonna change this. You know, I'm gonna copy that in case I need to restore it. This is a note here. All right, so we're just gonna have the icon source of the source compat. For this one, I think I'm going to just say at drawable / IC add entry. All right, and then let me see if that took hold here. Yeah, there we go. So we got that little plus symbol now at the bottom right there. That's the plus symbol we wanted. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to open main activity.kt, And we're going to write the following message or the following method here. Oops. I'm going to provide for you display message. All right. And it's going to take a message of type string. This is going to do a toast, which is kind of like, it's a little bit similar to a snack bar, I suppose. But it's just a quick little message. Toast.length long. And then the whole thing dot short. This is just to indicate that a message is displayed. So in if we look at the top over here, let me see here. This is in main activity. We've got the app bar. We're going to add this right here. Probably I could make it private. I'm just going to leave it, but action on click listener, right? Listener of type view dot on click listener equals view on view dot on click listener. And then this one is going to have a body. We need to import view, right? And here we're just going to call display message. And then this is going to just say action clicked very happily. And then what I want to do in on create, when the user clicks the fab here, I want to make sure that I have the appropriate stuff here. So I'm going to have it do action complete is the general text, length long, set action, we're going to call it action. Currently it's set to null. And what that does is that means that there's no listener corresponding to it. So other than the snack bar showing, it actually doesn't do anything. So what we're going to do though is we're going to tell it, I want you to use this action on click listener, because you have to provide it a listener of some sort. So we're going to do action on click listener, that object that I created, the reference. And now, in addition to bringing up the snack bar, when you select that action, it's going to actually call this. And then it will call that in turn will call display message. And then that will show a toast, which will be, it'll make it obvious that it actually did function. That's basically what the entire point is on that. Okay. Another thing, I want to reiterate this because a lot of students have been contacting me or asking some questions, or like, I don't know how to tell if such and such is working or if this is printing or where does this show. Log cat. I know there's a huge cat theme this semester, but I did not actually name this one. Log cat will often show the stuff that's going on the particular device. That's a really old device. I'm not sure if this is going to work. I might have to update it, but or use a different one. But we will see. But logcat actually displays basically all the messages that the system is generating. It's actually very useful. You're going to get a lot more in logcat typically than you're going to get under run as far as useful stuff. Okay. So waiting on Gradle to do its thing. And then we will hopefully see it in action. So if all goes well, good, okay. So if all goes well, we should see we removed all the navigation and everything, but if we click this action button down here, we should see a toast after the snack bar. So that's the snack bar, and that popped up, and it stays open for a little bit and then goes away, right? So I'm clicking the FAB, it shows the action, and then when I click action, you see that little action clicked there? That's the toast. So that means it is going all the way through. And of course, you could add anything you needed, database interaction, email someone, send your location to tell someone you're kidnapped. I mean, whatever you need it to do, it'll do. And you could have multiple actions as well. So there could be multiple action items on that bar as well. All right. Any questions about this? Maybe I'm missing something. The FAB is part of, okay, sometimes on different applications, especially in the Android environment, but also iOS does the same thing. There are certain stylistic choices and parts of the design on these different platforms that are common, and this is one of them. So instead of just adding a regular old button, sometimes if it's a more complex application, there may be a really common or I'm not going to say activity. There's a common behavior that you need to cause to happen a lot, or you might interact with a lot, and often that is exemplified by a floating action button. So you could use a regular button, that's fine, but this is kind of one of those like well-known Android things is the floating action button. So if you're in a context inside your app where adding something or doing something with the button that's going to be a common task, then I would say this is a good option. Okay, but it behaves just like a button, but it has it adheres very well to the material design, and it's part of the standard design that is common with Android applications. So yes, but it behaves just like a button, right? When you click it, it's literally got an on-click listener, just like a button does. And then we can do whatever we want when you click that button, just like a button. This is, again, just demonstrative. It's not saying that, you're going to always show a snack bar when you click the FAB. That's not always the case. This is just to try to get both of them in at once to show you that you can do both. The snack bar and the toast are a little bit different. The toast is more simple. It's called a toast because it just pops up like toast does out of a toaster, and it just you acknowledge it or let it go away, whatever. Hopefully your toast doesn't just disappear out of the toaster at home, but these do. The snack bar is a little bit. It's usually more, how do we say, it's more aggressive. It shows up with, takes up more space. And it also, usually you interact with it using actions, which you don't with a toast. Okay. Okay. Let me see here. What do we got? Just a minute. Okay. What are we doing? Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. So the next thing on the agenda is to look at a recycler view. So this, hopefully, as long as everything goes well, this should not take incredibly long. So the recycler view is, well, we've got tabbed interfaces too. This is kind of just a side note. I don't think I created a tabbed example, but or maybe I did. I don't remember. Let me look real quick. No, I don't have that on the agenda, but this is in the book anyway. You can create it pretty easily. It basically, these also act kind of like buttons. You can have it display images. You can have it display just words. All right, so these can be scrollable also. So like if you need to be able to scroll over and do things like that, but you can make different selections. And this is actually very, very common as well. So you should be probably familiar with seeing some sort of tabbed interface at some point. But what you do basically is you create a listener for each of these tabs. So if they click on one of these, then you know what to display at the bottom or what to do. Usually it's kind of a navigation type behavior. And then finally, we have RecyclerView and CardView, which we'll look at a quick example of. The RecyclerView is actually a more efficient technique to use than the list view. In fact, in most applications, in the Android Studio environment, it's going to refer to list view as being part of deprecated or legacy. I don't know if it's actually deprecated, but it's legacy, meaning it's older. You shouldn't probably use this unless you absolutely have to. But the recycler view has taken its place. The reason is a list view. What would happen? You've seen lists. You can scroll through them and basically just keep swiping up, and you'll see like a list continue. And that's fine and dandy. But the problem with the list view is that it creates all the objects. Let's say there's 100 objects or 100 different items that need to be displayed in the list. It will show all those items, and then it will keep the memory. Even if you scroll down the elements that are off screen, it still has the memory loaded for those. So the recycler view just ended up being a kind of a logical replacement for the list view. It behaves just pretty much just like a list view. But when you scroll, it will actually literally recycle the different cells that you have in the list view instead of creating brand new ones for all, like, say, 100 or 1,000 items that you have. So it's actually a lot more efficient. It offers a choice of 3 built-in layout managers to control the way the lists are presented. You have the linear layout, grid layout, or a staggered grid layout. That's when they're not of uniform size. So that's staggered grid layout right here. And then you've got the grid layout, and then you've got the most common is probably linear layout. For situations where none of these work, you can actually make custom layout managers by extending the layout manager, RecyclerView layout manager specifically. So each item displayed in a recycler view is an instance of this thing called view holder. So this is really, really common to use recycler view. This isn't just some random thing I plucked out of the air. Recycler views are very, very commonly used. So as with the list view, recycler view instance depends on an adapter to act as the intermediary between the recycler view and the data source. So this is a very, very common thing. And again, if you're familiar with some of the stuff you've done in different software engineering classes, this is a separation of concerns. Okay, so this is you've got the recycler view, which is part of the UI or the view, and then you've got the data, which is part of the model. So you've got basically a model view controller situation right here, or at least a model view situation or some variation. The adapter is a subclass of RecyclerView.adapter, and it has to implement at a minimum the following methods: get item count, on create view holder, that creates and returns this view holder, which is the each individual item. Now, remember, don't get lost in the weeds here. We know what a view is. A view is just, it could be an individual item. It could be like a button or something. It can be like, a little like layout, like linear layout, like we saw before, or a grid or something like that. It could be anything like that, anything that's a view, essentially. A view holder is basically it's a holder for a view. Okay, so it literally is what the name says. So when you create the view holder, that will create and return the view holder object initialized with the view that is used to display the data. And the view holder is typically created by inflating an XML file. And it will actually do this for every item in the recycler view in the list. On bind view holder is it's past the view holder object that was created by on create view holder, along with an integer indicating the list item that is about to be displayed. This method populates the views in the layout with the text and graphics corresponding to the specified item. And it must also return the object to the recycler view when it is presented to the user. Okay, another related topic that you will use probably a decent amount as well is this type of view called a card view. These are really, really helpful. They allow information to be presented in groups called cards. Okay, it's using this card metaphor. If you've ever seen, they're kind of like, you don't see them very often anymore unless you go into a really old school place, or your grandparents might have them, maybe your parents, who knows. But if you've seen a Rolodex, I don't know if anyone's seen a Rolodex, not a Rolex, that's a watch. So Rolodex. So these are like old school, not many people use them anymore because everything's digital, but you may have seen these at a minimum, like in an old movie or something, or well, I say old, 1980s, something like that, 90s. But you basically spin this thing and they can have business cards pasted to them. It could just have stuff written down on them, and they're called cards, right? So this is kind of where this analogy comes from, except we're spinning it vertically instead of in a circular fashion. Okay, so it's usually presented in lists using RecyclerView instance, may be configured to appear with shadow effects and rounded corners. So these little rounded corners here. So you could do your own custom views to be shown by the RecyclerView, but cards are actually a really good option. The UI for a CardView instance is defined within XML, just like we have normally dealt with. This is if you're using view-based technology instead of Jetpack Compose. It's then loaded into the CardView itself at runtime. Okay, and then you could go through their card demo. We're going to do a brief example here. Let's see here. What are we going to do? Basic activity again. Okay. Yeah, basic activity. Why are we doing basic activity? Why is that? I'm looking through here real quick here. They're deleting the nav host fragment, designing the card layout. I don't know that I love that, but image files, Android, image card view, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I guess we'll just do what it says. That's fine. So the example in the book uses the basic activity. We're going to call this card demo and hit finish. All right. Let this run for a couple seconds. All right. See, that's how fast it's supposed to load. That's what it's supposed to be like. We've got basic activity. We're making sure that the Kotlin was the language, which we did already. Okay. Come on, friends. Get it. There we go. See, that's a reasonable amount of time. Originally it was not. Okay, so we're going to open the activity main resource here under layout. I'm going to go in here, and in this particular case, we don't really need the FAB. So I'm going to delete that guy to remove it. And then we're going to edit the main activities on create. And we're not going to actually use the nav controller at all, or the FAB stuff. So I'm going to delete that. We're also, let's see, what else? On support navigate up. Yeah, this is not valid anymore because we're not going to use the navigation. Content.main. We're going to go over here and delete the nav host content fragment right here. We don't need it. Give it a second. I think it's mourning the loss. Oh no, it didn't do it. Okay. There we go. Okay. So we got that. Only the constraint layout parent exists now, as you can see. There's like nothing there. We are going to change some of the stuff around in just a minute, but let's create the card view layout that we're going to use in the card view. So we're going to go under res layout, and I'm going to right click that and go to new. And then we're going to go to layout resource file right here. I'm going to name it card_layout into the field name, and then into the root element, I'm going to actually change this so that it says Android x.cardview widget.cardview, like that. You'll notice it popped up most of the stuff for me already. And then I'm going to hit OK. I think that's good. Yeah. So now I have this extra layout called CardView layout.xml. So we've got this open, and we're going to say, what does each individual card look like? Okay. Now, to make things a little bit interesting, let's change some stuff up inside the XML. Okay. So we do have a lot of stuff that we need to add here. LNS is app is HTTP schemas Android Auto, so we need to add that. We also need to make sure that the height, which we could do this in the attributes, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to make the height wrap content. That's to make sure that it only takes up as much space as it needs, okay, rather than as much as it can. I'm also going to add a few more attributes here, so I'm going to do that. We'll do Android : ID is, we're going to give this an ID plus ID, adds it to the system. We're just going to call it CardView, right? And then Android layout margin. This is just to give you a little bit of experience with seeing what the XML looks like. But we could again do essentially all of this at the in the attribute modification or the attribute window. But card background color. So this is going to be, let's do 81C7 84. Give me just 1 second here. It was getting quite dark in my room, so I had to turn on the light. All right, so we've got the color there. And we can also have card corner radius. This is the one where you're allowed to round it. So you can actually give it a 12 dp radius. And what that does is it goes in basically from the corner. Normally you have a square corner, if you can picture it. It goes in starting at the corner, going at a diagonal. It goes in 12 density independent pixels, and it rounds it like that. Okay, it basically cuts off or saws off so that there's a 12 dp radius. So app card elevation is 3dp. App content padding is 4dp. Okay, now the next things we're going to add to this is going to give it some material design ripple effect, so to make it look a little bit cool. So we're going to do Android foreground. So we're going to put question, and then this is some of the different options that we have here. Selectable, selectable item background, and then Android clickable is true. So we're making sure that this card is in fact clickable. So that's all you need in that opening tag, okay, of the card view element. But now I have the content of the card view element right down here, and I can add different components here. So I'm going to add my constraint layout, Android X dot constraint layout dot widget dot constraint layout. Okay, constraint layout. All right, the width is going to be match parent, and the height again is going to be wrap content. We only want it taking up as much as it needs. We also need some padding. Android padding is going to be 16 density independent pixels. You also need an ID. I would usually put that first, so I think I'm going to do that. At plus ID. I guess it's called relative layout in this. That's dumb. I don't like that. Okay, that's what they named it in the book. Apparently, that's dumb. I don't like that. Okay. So we need an image view. Now here's how our card's going to look. Okay, so we got the image view. I'm going to give that a well, here we'll do a self-closing right here, self-closing. We're also going to do a text view, and I'm going to give that a self-closing element as well. We're going to add some data to this, so don't worry. And then another text view. So basically, this card is going to have an image on it, and it's also going to have 2 text views. So we're going to have to decide what does that mean in the grand scheme of things. What do we want it to look like? So this image view right here is going to have an ID. Okay, Android. It helps to have your fingers on the home keys. ID is item image. The width we're just going to go for the gold here and just say it's 100 by 100. We need also the app layout constraint left to left of. So we're doing it to the left of its parent. So the image is going to be constrained to the left of its parent. We're going to do app layout constraint start to start of. We're going to do parent as well. I'm going to do app colon layout constraint top to top of. And that's going to be the parent. And again, you could do pretty much all of this in the attributes panel. This is just giving you a little bit of a flavor. Some people honestly are so familiar with the XML that goes to making Android XML files that they prefer just staying in the XML view and then looking at design every once in a while, just to see what it, if it looks right. But most of it's up to you. Some people just find it faster actually to use the XML rather than to do the go through and click a bunch of stuff, because a lot of people prefer staying on the keyboard most of their time. Okay, so layout width for this text view, we're going to make it, we'll make it some, number 236, I think is what they used in the book, 39 density independent pixels for the height. And then we're going to do a couple other things. Android layout underscore margin start. So the margin start should be 16 density independent pixels. Android text size at scale, I don't need that, text size is equal to 30 density independent pixels. We also want app, here's our constraints. Constraint the, constraint left to right of. We're going to make this immediately to the right of the item image, which was our original image up here, right? So we're good on that. App layout constraint start to end of, and we're going to make this to the end of the item image as well. Item image. App layout constraint top to the top of the parent. So this is going to be the thing on the top. So my top, this text view's top, is going to be up at the top of the parent, which is constraint layout. Now, this final text view down here, this one has an ID of item detail. So there's a title, detail, and an image. So image will go to the left, then you have the title on the top, and then the details on the bottom. So this is also going to be 236 density independent pixels. We're going to do a height of 16 density independent pixels. We also have some margins in this case. So we're going to add a little bit of margins, which separates it from the things that it's near. So Android layout margin start is going to be 16 density independent pixels. Okay, this is going to be margin top. That's going to be 8 dp. App layout constraint left to right of. This one is going to be ID/item image. So it's going to be to the right of this thing. And then we have app, layout constraint start to end of the item image. So we've got plus ID/item, item image. And then this is the one that's different. So app layout constraint top to bottom of. So this top on this second text view is going to be constrained with its top to the bottom of the item title. Okay, so the thing above it is physically going to be the thing above it. Now, wait a minute, that's not right. What's going on here? Layout, app, layout constraint. I think I goofed. There we go. Let's make sure that looks right. So that's, to right, wait a minute. Got the image view, got constraint left to right of the item image, start to end of item image, and then top to top of parent. And then this one is, item image, title, right end of bottom. Okay, I think that's good. Now, if we look at it in the design, you can actually see it more over here. You'll see that we have a nice little image thing that we can have there. And then you have the top text view and then the bottom one right there, right? So that will gives us a whole lot of control. We also have this rounded side here. So when we have these items in this list, it's actually going to this recycler view. They're actually going to show up one by one like that. So let me see here. Was there an image we need to drag over? I cannot remember. I think there is, but we'll find it. Okay. So we're going to add the recycler view. So in the content main here, I'm going to drag and drop a recycler view over here. And we're going to position it centered in the screen essentially. So let's, I'm just going to add this right here with the ones on the sides. And it will automatically resize to fill the screen, but it is now constrained because it's in a constrained layout. And it automatically is large enough. We can infer constraints, or we can just add the pluses around the side. Using the attributes tool on this recycler view, the ID should just be RecyclerView. The layout width and height can both be match constraint. So we can set that to a 0 there. And then we need to add some image files. Okay, so wait a minute. So there are different CardView demo images. Let me grab them. I don't think those are uploaded either. We will get them though. I will put them exactly where you need them. Okay. All right, so let me see. Card demo, right? This is card demo. App source in res drawable. Okay, yeah. All right, so there are several of these images. I'm actually going to make probably a separate folder for them on Canvas because there's just a lot. Okay, we're going to call them card images. So if you want to practice with those, we're going to drag those over. See, nothing magical going on, just these are from a previous iteration of the course. So these are just a bunch of Android images that we have. And you can download those, use them for whatever you need. All right. Oh, 1 second. Sorry. I occasionally get cat hairs stuck in my mouse and it starts acting funky. Okay. So drawable. I will drag this over here to the drawable and it will add all of them. Right? Android image _1 all the way through image _8. Right? Now we're going to create the adapter and respond to the item clicks. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to right click the app Java card demo entry, and we're going to go to new Kotlin class or file. Where is it? Right there. Yeah, top one. And I'm going to just name this recycler adapter. And it's going to be a class from the list here. And it creates this class for us. The only difference between the class and the file is that the file does not create this for you, but you could add it. If you accidentally hit file, oh no, the world's burning. No, you don't have to worry about that. You just add, you literally type it manually. Oh no, we have to do something manually. I thought ChatGPT was going to code everything for me. Nope, sorry. So we've got the class here. We're going to modify this so that, let's see here. We need to, I think we need to get access to the card demo sub stuff. So let me see here. Let's see if this works. com.prof jpbaud.carddemo.r. Yeah. Okay. So that's the generator. These are the generated classes, which we need access to potentially. So I'm going to add those. And we're also going to do RecyclerView.adapter. This is what we're inheriting from. And it has a RecyclerAdapter.view holder. So we've got a couple different things. Right here, I'm going to import that. So it automatically does that. And I'm going to import the view holder. This one is actually, we're going to create that as an inner class. So let me just do that. We're going to say inner class view holder that takes an item view of type view, and then that inherits from RecyclerView.view holder, also passing in the item view to its parent. And I need to import view. Okay, so far so good. Now it's torqued off at the moment. If you hover over it and inquire as to the problems, it will tell you it's not abstract and does not implement the abstract base class member on create view holder, a couple others. So we actually have to, I'm going to hit Alt. It'll say implement, or Alt Enter, it'll say implement members. I'm going to tell it to do that. I'm going to tell it to just do all of them. All right. Now the way it implements them is it actually throws an exception for each of them. So you actually have to like do something. So we will do that in just a moment. But inside of this RecyclerView adapter, I'm going to have different titles. So these are being hard coded, but again, you could grab this from, I mean, they could be grabbed from a web source. They could be grabbed from a database. There's all kinds of stuff. So we've got chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7, chapter 8. I think that's it for those. Those are the titles. So that I use the array of to create an array of those. And then we also need the details. So private val details, that's going to be an array of things. So this one I'm actually, I think I'm going to cheat here and do some copy pasta. All right. So oops. Okay. So it's just item 1 details, item 2 details. Obviously you'd put more practical and useful things, but the next thing would be the images. And remember the references to the images, which are found in R here. It creates these resources under drawable. I can actually reference them using an int array. So if I say int array of, I can then just put their different values that are generated automatically. That's why I needed to import R here, because this adapter is not does not have direct access to R unless you import it. Okay. So we've got all of this stuff here, pretty much everything we need there. We have the view holder we need to do some implementation with. Inside the view holder, I'm going to create a couple things here. Item image. And remember, every time this view holder, this is actually going to create multiple instances of view holder. Every one of these is going to represent one of those cards. Okay. So image, item image is going to be an image view. All right, that we're going to reference the one we created in the XML. There's item title is a text view. And then we also have our item detail is a text view as well. Okay, now let me see here. That text view needs imported. Is that right? Wait a minute. Import. There we go. Okay. Now, why is it angry? Property must be initialized or be abstract. Oh, we have to add an initializer. Okay, just a minute. And view holder. Okay, here's the initializer. This, as we had spoken before, kind of acts in some ways like a constructor, kind of. Item image, we're going to do item. This time we're just going to use the old school item view dot find view by ID, r.id.item image. So this is where I'm associating these variables with the stuff I just made in the card layout, right? So we got item image, title, detail. Over here, we've got item image, item title, and detail, right? Item detail, item view dot find view by ID, r.id.item detail. Okay, and then we want to know, we'll still do this in the init. You'll notice the errors went away now. It's satisfied that we're actually initializing it. This needs to go up there. There's no reason that's no. Okay. All right. and init. Now inside the init, we're going to respond to clicking an item. Okay, so item view dot set on click listener be of type view arrow. I'm going to say we're going to grab the position, get adapter position, and then create a snack bar just to help us out here. Snackbar.make. It's going to take the view v and then say click detected on item, and then I'm going to put $ position. This is so I can use interpolation, the string position, and then it's going to be snackbar dot length long dot set action, and then in this case it's not going to really have an action, so we're going to just say action and then null, and then that whole thing dot show. Okay, notice the dot show is after this set of parentheses is closed. Okay, so be careful with that. On create view holder, down here, got to implement that. So val v equals layout inflator. We're grabbing it from the view group dot context, and we're going to say dot next line, I guess, dot inflate r dot layout dot card layout. That's the layout that we just created, the card layout. Another reason why we need r view group, and then it's not attached to the parent or root. Return the view holder on that view. So this one, the view holder is initialized, but really where it actually gets instantiated is this thing's going to call the on view create view holder every time it tries to put one of those cards in, and we have to tell it how to do it. Get item count is, let me see here. Get item count is just going to return titles.size, right? And wait a minute, what is titles? Did we make titles? Should be up here. Titles, I called it title. Should be titles. Okay, so titles dot is it size? Did I goof again? Oh, I'm sorry, it's a property, not Java, folks. It's Kotlin. Okay, and then this one, I don't know that onbind view holder. Yeah, onbind view holder. We need to say view holder dot. Now this is where we actually display this stuff. So this is the magic right here. Item title dot text is equal to the titles at I. Now I is our, well, we could do position. I'm just going to name it I right here. So this is actually the position that is getting bound at any given point, and then this is just called holder, I guess. So we've got holder dot item title dot text is the titles at I. View holder dot item detail dot, sorry, view, good Lord. Okay, holder dot item detail dot text is equal to details at I. So remember, those are those arrays I just created earlier. I'm telling you what to put in each of those text views as it generates the different cards. View holder dot item, I'm sorry, holder, I keep calling it view holder, holder dot item image dot set image resource. Okay, and then I give it that RID that is loaded into images rather at I. And we're pretty good. We're getting close. We're getting close, almost done. So now in the activity, see, there's something wrong here. View group. Oh, it's just called parent. I'm going to name it view group. I don't like parent. Let's do view group. Okay, I think that's good. Anything else? It's still got a red line, but that may just be part of the system. I think it's okay. I don't think, oh no, adapter position. I think there's something goofy with that. Get adapter position. I thought I typed get adapter position. Get adapter position. Oh, it's, I'm sorry. In Kotlin, we just have to do adapter position. It's a property. So it's automatically inherited. So we have access to it. So again, if you're not seeing what's going on here, this is a class inside of a class. The adapter is going to adapt the data to be displayed in the recycler view, and each view holder, this inner class, is representing each of those items that goes into the view, the recycler view, and each of these is going to correspond to a card, essentially. All right, so activity main.xml. Okay, in the code, we have this include layout statement. It's going to still say include the layout here, but I'm going to actually just give it an ID. So Android ID is + ID of content main, like that in camel case. And we have to do that in order for the view binding to access the RecyclerView from main activity. Since RecyclerView is in the content main XML and in turn is included in the activity main XML, we have to be able to reach down into that in order to grab it. So that's why we needed to give this an ID. Okay, so that's the thing that's being included, the content main. So we go back to the main activity. I'm going to near the top here underneath my binding. I'm going to say private var layout manager. Remember there we can do layout managers for the RecyclerView. So this is going to be a recycler view dot layout manager, and then we're going to make it nullable. It does not like that, so we're going to import it. And then we're going to do private var adapter. This is the new adapter we have. So the RecyclerView dot adapter of type recycler adapter dot view holder, and it's nullable as well. Okay. And then inside of onCreate, below where we set this support action bar, I'm going to actually initialize these things. So layout manager is linear layout manager. That's a built-in layout manager. And binding.content main. Remember, I had to give it an ID just a second ago, so I could reach down into it to get the RecyclerView. Dot layout manager is set equal to the layout manager. I'm going to set the adapter to a recycler adapter. Remember, we don't use the new keyword in Kotlin, but this is creating an instance of recycler adapter. That's the one we created ourselves. So this is named what we named it, recycler adapter. And then binding dot content main again dot RecyclerView. Here we're associating, we already associate layout manager so it looks a certain way. Now we want it to act a certain way. So we're going to say RecyclerView dot adapter equals the adapter we just created. Okay, so we should now, hopefully, God willing, this thing will actually compile and we'll actually be able to run the sucker and see what it does. And you can see that you can make stuff a lot prettier than just, basic text flying all over the screen in awkward positions. So using cards and RecyclerView, you can actually make stuff look pretty nice if you're careful. And it's up to you what the design looks like. But yeah, pretty cool, huh? So the look is pretty good. We've actually associated different images for each of these because each of them has an image view. So that means we can actually tell it, where do I want you to put these different images? So the recycler adapter, if we go to the view holder, remember each view holder, which will be created by the system, is representing one of these cards, one of these lines here. So each of them also has an image, which is this thing right here. It has a title, which is the thing up at the top. And it has this thing down here, item detail. That's this type stuff right down here. And you'll notice I can click any of them. And it's actually showing me a toast at the bottom. And I can click and scroll. Let's grab number 8, and it'll tell me, hey, you clicked on item 7, which is 0 through 7 inclusive versus 1 through 8 inclusive. But they each have these different images. You could randomize this stuff. You can do all kinds of stuff with this. So it's very, very cool. All right, or go to a completely different screen based on this. But this looks a lot more maybe professional than just a basic, super basic list of items that you're scrolling through. So I would recommend considering this if you have an applicable use case for it for your project 4. It might be a good idea to use RecyclerView and Card Demo. It's a little bit extra work to set it up. And I know I did some of the stuff in XML. Again, you can do that in the design view. I was just kind of showing you an alternative and letting us look at the XML itself, because we had to tweak some stuff really carefully. So I just figured it'd be a good opportunity to show you the XML itself rather than going through the click and drag portion. I can't remember. I think the book does the XML technique, but regardless, you can do it either way. Doesn't really matter. All right. Are there any questions? That actually went longer than I thought. Are there any questions? No? Okay. I will upload both of these examples as well. Both of these examples to Canvas. So I'm going to do that. And then I will also, once the meeting has ended, I'm going to upload the video to YouTube, and then I will post the link under the announcements. Okay. So what was this? Fab example this week. Compress the zip file. And then we also have, what was the other one? Card or RecyclerView? I think it's called, what the hell did we call it? Card demo. There we go. Okay, so card demo and fab example. Let me upload those so I don't forget it, and then I will take any questions. If anyone has any questions. Okay, card demo and the fab example. All right, there you go. Okay. Are there any questions about this or anything else pertinent to the class? No? Some of you want to get back to gardening with your rocks. So I know that that's very important to you, especially at 8 p.m. It's a good thing, good activity to do at 8. Okay, so we have the examples uploaded there. Everything should be good. I hope this was useful and gave you maybe some ideas for some of the stuff you might want to do for your maybe project 4. Again, you can work in groups. Just make sure it's it's not just like, hey, I displayed an extra, property of the cat on the cat API. It can't be anything like that. But if it's a reasonable amount of effort, it would constitute having groups. You don't have to have a group though if you don't want one. Okay. Last call before I stop the meeting. Okay. I had a direct message. Is it better to constrain buttons or objects to each other, or constrain them to all the edges and then position them where you want them? That kind of depends. It depends on the particular layout you're going for. I would say, as a general rule of thumb, at least one thing has to be constrained to the parent. And then often the other stuff is constrained either partially to the parent or not, but usually they also have constraints involving the other elements. So often the other elements are the ones actually setting the guide, either vertically or horizontally, or sometimes both, but not as often. All right, any other questions? Okay, I'm going to, let me see here real quick here. Oops, one moment. Oh dear. Okay, I'm going to end the recording, but you will still be able to ask questions if you have any. So